Hello, this is Art Gains on the Art Gains Kids channel. Today we're going to be looking at layers. Layers are one of the most basic concepts in digital art. They allow the digital artist a lot more versatility than you would have if you were just drawing on a piece of paper or if you were painting on a single canvas. You know, in this program, PaintStorm Studio, the layers panel is over here. Well, it might be located somewhere else on your screen, but this is what it looks like. You have these different layers listed. There's a little thumbnail showing what's on each layer and a little button next to it that allows you to turn a layer on or off. Now, the way you can think of layers is as if you have multiple planes of glass on top of each other, and you can draw on each pane of glass, and then after you've drawn on each pane of glass, you can take one away or shift it around or change one layer. Like if you've painted, I don't know, Captain Europa here on a layer by himself, and you think he's too small or too big or something, you can just take that layer and make it bigger or smaller, or make changes to it which won't affect the rest of your drawing. Another example, let's say you're painting a landscape and you have the sky on one layer, and then, I don't know, mountains on another layer, and then forest on another layer, and then a single tree on its own layer. If you decide, oh, that tree, I don't like that tree, you can just take it away, and you'll be left with your landscape just without the tree. Or if you decide, oh, I don't like that tree over here, and I want it to be over on the other side of the artwork, you can just grab it and move it. So, in order to illustrate this concept, I've prepared this little file here, which we're looking at on the screen. This piece of artwork has 3 layers. There's Captain Europa, there's the building he's standing on, and then the background, the buildings in the background and the sky. And you see, if I click on the little eye icon next to Captain Europa up here in the top left, Captain Europa disappears. And if I do the same for the middle layer, the building, then the building disappears. And if I do the same for the lower level, the sky and the buildings, then they disappear. Once again, I'll go through that again. Captain Europa is on his own layer. I can toggle him on and off, and I can move him around. Oops, I've selected the wrong layer. Select the top layer, grab Captain Europa, and I can move him around without affecting the rest of the artwork. Or I can grab the middle layer, move the middle layer around, or the bottom layer. I should demonstrate. Whatever is on a higher level will cover up whatever is on a layer below it, as long as that layer is opaque, as long as you are painting with an opaque paintbrush. Now, I will demonstrate that. I'm going to select the paintbrush tool, and my lowest layer is selected, the background, and if I start drawing on this back layer, then you can see I can draw behind Captain Europa and the building, and it automatically it doesn't draw over top of him, like you would if you were drawing on paper or painting on an actual canvas. And if I make Captain Europa disappear, you can see that what I drew is just underneath what I drew is underneath Captain Europa. Let me see if is there anything else I should say about layers. Oh, I know. If you want to create a new layer, there's this icon here, the blank page, that will create a new layer. You can see I can create as many layers as I want. Different artists have different approaches to layers. Some use very few layers, some use only one layer. Sometimes you'll find a piece of artwork that has hundreds and hundreds of layers. Now, if you have a lot of layers, you'll need a more powerful computer to do that usually, although modern computers are pretty good, so you might not run into that problem. But if you're making giant pieces of artwork, like 5,000 pixels wide or something, then you probably want to limit the number of layers you use. Let's see, what do these other buttons do? This is it's a group. I won't cover that. There's some other tools for working with layers, which I'll save for another tutorial, I think. Oh, and if you want to change the order in which your layers are placed, there's these up and down arrows here. So if I want to move Captain Europa back down so that he's not standing on the building anymore, I can press this down button, and he is now behind the edge of this building. And if I move him down again, he disappears completely because he is behind the background, and the background is completely opaque, so you can't see him through the background. So I'm going to put him back up on top again. Oh, I know. And another thing you can do with layers is you can set, there's these different settings for these layers up here in the top left. All these different types of layers you can select. Now this list of things comes from a program called Photoshop. They're basically just copies of different sort of layers from Photoshop. And I'm not going to explain the difference between all of these, but normally you just want your layer to be normal. Now, the different types of layers that I commonly use would be layers like multiply, screen, color dodge, overlay, and sometimes hue, saturation, and color, I guess. But that's kind of advanced, and I'm not going to cover that anytime soon, probably. Oh yes, and then there's also this opacity slider where you can manually change the opacity of your layer. So if you see, if I move it up to 100, Captain Europa is completely opaque, but if I move it to 50, now Captain Europa is transparent. And if I move it to 0, he disappears completely, just because he's completely invisible now. He's like the Invisible Man, only I don't think that's one of Captain Europa's powers. Let's see here. Oh, yes. And if you're finished with a layer and you don't want you don't want to accidentally change anything on it, you can click this lock button, and now you shouldn't be able to draw on it anymore. So you see I have the layer is locked, and I'm attempting to draw on the layer, but nothing is happening. If you want to combine two layers together, you can, or if you want to merge layers together and that sort of thing, you can use these buttons here. This first one will take whatever is on your selected layer and move it down and merge it with the layer below it. This button here will combine your selected layer and the layer below it into one layer, which is similar. This one will duplicate your layer, and that one, I know what that is, but I'm not going to explain what's happening there. Alright, so right now, I'll explain it in another video, I think. Alright, so this is Art Gains for the Art Gains Kids channel. Thank you.